This is the Real Estate Investing Abundance Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. I know you're excited to get into today's show, but I have a very exciting announcement to share with you before moving to the show. We've just launched a complimentary and comprehensive webinar that, among other things, shows you how to legally use passive real estate investing to reduce your taxes, recession-proof your nest egg, and take the sting out of inflation. If you are curious to learn more, go to stevetalker.com/webinar. It is complimentary and only takes a couple of minutes of your time. Once again, that is stevetalker.com/webinar. I'll see you in the webinar. Enjoy today's show. Hello, enlightened investors. Welcome back to Real Estate Investing Abundance. I'm your host, Dr. Allen. Thank you so much for being with us. It is always a great pleasure to be with you, and we really do appreciate our enlightened investors. And with us today, we have a wonderful guest, Niti Jamdar, and he is the author of Accelerate Your Real Estate. And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Niti is a founder and owner of Open Space Capital and Open Space Women. After working for 20 years as an executive in product strategy and finance for a Fortune 100 company, Niti made his shift to investing in entrepreneurship in 2020. Niti invests in real estate across the United States. He is passionate about helping corporate professionals break the golden handcuffs through the power of real estate investing. So welcome, Niti, and share with us a memorable experience that may have been helpful in forming who you are today.
That's great. Well, thank you, first of all, Alan, for having me. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's a great question. We actually talk about this incident in our book that you just mentioned, which is we were, just to give everyone a quick background, as Alan mentioned, I was in corporate for a long time, follow the traditional path of, get a degree, get a job and climb the corporate ladder. And so did my wife. We did that for about 15 years. And then we had kids, and we had a 2-year-old at the time and a 2-month-old. And my wife and I were sitting at breakfast, and my wife said, I'm going to have to go back to work. My maternity leave is ending. And I'm going to ask my boss to see, since I've worked with the company for 10 years, to see if maybe they could let me work from home for a few days, or give me some flexibility. And that request was not well received. And we were like, wait, we worked all these years to give so much to our company, and we can't spend time with our kids, even though we're both doing really well in our corporate careers. And so that was a transformative moment for us, because we realized that, and we'd heard this before, Warren Buffett talks about this, which is, sometimes it's not about how hard you row, but it's about the boat that you're in. And we realized that we spent all this time in a boat and we kept trying to row harder, but maybe it just wasn't the right boat. And that's when we discovered real estate and the power of real estate investing. And, within a few years, my wife was able to retire, and then I was able to retire 3 years back. So that was a transformative moment for us.
Well, interesting journey, and we all have our different stories on how to get into real estate. But that's one thing I often hear, is that that people get into real estate investing really for time freedom, and one of the major motivations for that is to spend more time with our children. And they grow up so fast, and and our corporate environment just doesn't allow us to treasure those very rare opportunities that we have with our children there. Well, I'm glad you've made that transition and are here to serve as an example to others. I really want to get into this concept. You say that there is this high earners paradox. And this is that, why is it that above average salary employees continue to not build their wealth? They have the financial resources to do so, but they just never seem to do it. And I work with high-performing professionals who are quite comfortable in their positions. And we, of course, are always working on capital raising. And so many of them that we encounter are, like I say, they're very comfortable. They've worked hard in their professions, and they're doing well in those professions, but they are not really building the wealth that they certainly could have with the resources that they have. So talk to us about that paradox.
Yes. And just like you, like a lot of investors that I talk to, no matter how much they're making in income, right? Everybody who's making, say, even 40, 50,000 a year to people who are making 500,000 plus a year, they're all in the same boat, which is we're always told to focus on income since we are growing up. It's like, well, the way to make money is to make more income. And while that is partly true, the second part of that equation is you want to earn income so you can build wealth. And the way you build wealth is by buying and owning assets for a long period of time. And that really is what nobody teaches us, right? Like we had to learn this on our own when we were in our 30s. They don't teach you that in school. Our parents didn't know that because nobody taught them that. And so, it's what I tell people is no matter what income level you are, you need to start buying assets. If you're making a lot of money, buy one asset a month or one asset a quarter. If you're making less money, try to increase your income so you can buy more assets, like buy one or two assets a year, whether it's a single family home, whether it's investing in multi-family, whatever it is that excites you, you want to be able to buy assets because that is what is going to replace your income. And that is what truly builds generational wealth. And I see people make, and we made this mistake for a long time ourselves. Like every time, even in our early 30s, you're both making six figures. And, every time we got a good chunk of money, we just, we were like put aside a little bit or maybe, put in a 401k or something. But then most of it we just spent or, I mean, we live in such a, consumerist society that we're just like, oh, buy this couch or buy that car or, and all that is fine. But when it's finally clicked for us, we started doing the reverse. Every time we got a little bit of money, like say 10K here from a bonus or a salary increase or a tax return, the first thing we did was buy assets, and then whatever was left over, sure, you can spend it however you want. But really, people go through a lot of their lives earning so much money but not having much to show for it. And I think that is the difference, is that the answer is to buy assets first.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And like you said, no one taught us these things, and it took me a long time to learn this myself. And actually, I came to it by accident. I never expected to really build that much wealth through real estate, but I purchased some rental properties, and I was just blown away by not only the cash flow that came from that, but holding those properties just 2 and 3 and 4 years, I was just amazed at the wealth that increased just from the appreciation from those holdings. And it was just by accident. I mean, nobody taught me these things. So you're absolutely right. And there's that allure of, you've got a nice salary and, well, you've got to keep up with, all of the neighbors and all of your colleagues and so on and so forth. And we spend that money to keep up rather than to really to build wealth there.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us a little bit about how you got started and just to give us some examples of how others can do that.
Yeah, of course. So when we first started investing, it was, just like you said, it was more of like an accident. We're like, hey, we lived in Philly and we got some 10K or something, I believe, from a tax return, and we had a little bit of money saved up. And we said, okay, why don't we buy a property? The property was listed for $135,000. It was a 3-bed, 1-bath. It was ready to rent. And we thought, oh, what if we bought the property, rented it out, and see how it goes? And we rented it. And within the first year, we made every month, we would see cash flow in our pocket because somebody was paying for the mortgage and we were left over a little bit of money. And it appreciated a bit and it helped us with our taxes, lowered our taxes. We're like, wait, this is amazing. What if we did more of this? And so in the first year, we bought two or three of these rent-ready rentals. And we were just amazed. We're like, well, we should be really doing this. Like, how do we buy even more? Because one option was to, buy two or three houses a year or a couple of houses a year. But then we're like, we don't want to wait that long until to retire from our day jobs. We want to be able to do it now so we can spend time with our kids. And so we came up with a 5-year plan to buy assets really quick. And the way we kind of did that was a lot of people know that as a BRRRR strategy, which is you buy a distressed property, and because it's distressed, you can buy it for a lot cheaper for cents on the dollar. You rehab it and you increase the value of the property. And then instead of selling it like a lot of flippers would, you just rent it out and then you refinance it and pull the capital that you'd invested back. And so now it removes a capital constraint. Like initially, when we bought a rent-ready property, we would have to bring $50,000, $60,000 to the table, if not more, to buy the property. And now with the BRRRR strategy, we bring maybe 10, 15,000, or sometimes 20,000. Even that we pull back out when we get done with the deal. And so we can reinvest that same capital. And so now instead of buying two or three houses, we could buy 20 houses, right? Like, and so that kind of really changed how we thought of real estate.
Well, interesting. Different people have different ways of getting into it, and the BRRRR strategy is certainly a good way to do that. It worked for me. That's exactly what I was doing. And when I started, there was nobody teaching about those things, and there wasn't such a thing as a BRRRR. I didn't know what that was. I
Right.
I just did it by accident, and it worked, and it works very well. How do you suggest that we invest in real estate in 2023 and 24?
Yeah, great question. So, and we get this question a lot, like, should I be investing? A lot of people are like, should I be investing right now or should I wait? And my answer to that is there's always the best time to invest was 10 years back. The next best time is now. And the only thing that you need to be thinking of as an investor at any point is what are the challenges in the market right now that I need to address? And those challenges keep changing over time. So for example, if you go back when we started investing in 2014, 2015, back then it was easy to find properties, it was easy to find contractors, but it was very difficult to find commercial financing because that time was fairly new and people there weren't you have to my wife had to call 90 banks to find a bank who would lend to us, right? So but we worked through that hurdle at that point to get a loan. Fast forward 2020, when the pandemic first hit, it was suddenly really difficult because so much money had been printed over the last few years, and that it was hard to find properties because everything was getting bought the day it was on the market, and there was 5 cash offers on every property. And so you had to really figure out as an investor to work your numbers and be able to, from the time that you got the listing of a property that you're looking to buy, how do you shorten the time that you look at it, you get a rehab quote and put an offer so that you can beat out the other investors that are trying to buy it. So that was your challenge at that time. At that time, it was very easy to find lenders. So, and fast forward to today, where the interest rates are really high, and people are like, yeah, like how can you make numbers work at 7-8% interest rates? And I'm like, well, look, when we first started, the lender that lent us money back in 2015, we paid 7.5% in commercial interest rates because there weren't that many products at the time. So we're used to high interest rates. So but the challenge now is, okay, how do I make the numbers work? And deal analysis, and obviously there's 3 things that you can. We always tell people outsource everything as a real estate investors. That's how you can scale, right? Treat it like a business. But there's 3 things that you can never outsource. One is deal analysis, because you have to know what a good deal is. Second is finance, because you truly need to understand what commercial financing is, how it works to be able to scale. And then three is building and operating your team. That's something that, again, you need to own. You can't outsource that. You can outsource the activities, but you still have to manage the team. So with the high interest rate environment that we're in now, as an investor, you're asking yourself, okay, which kind of deal works? And if you, once you plug in the numbers in your deal analysis calculator, you can be like, okay, the interest rate is high, but there's other levers that I can pull. Maybe I can buy it for a little bit cheaper, or I can, maybe spend this much on the rehab, or maybe the ARV is this much, and the rents have gone up quite a bit in the last 2 3 years. So again, it's about and getting creative as an investor. No matter what the market cycle, your question is not should I be investing, but how should I be investing right now?
Wonderful advice there. Enlightened investors, if you haven't done so already, be sure and click that like button and also click that share so others can take advantage of the content. And finally, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our upcoming episodes. Talk to us a little bit about this aspect of balancing social impact and profitability, because there are so many corporations out there these days who just don't give a hoot about that.
And we've all read all these articles about how Wall Street is coming in and buying all these single family homes now because that's now the next big thing. And that our message is, and this is very important to us when we got started investing, is that as an investor, you can have a positive impact in society while doing business. And there's so many ways that you can do that. A couple of ways that have really worked well for us is, one, when we rehab the property, we do a good job of rehabbing it. We put in a new kitchen, new bathroom, new flooring. We make it really appealing for people to live in, even though these rents are probably not, these are not your high-end homes, but we still, rehab them in a way that makes it appealing to people. We work a lot with Section 8, right? So as a landlord, 2/3 of the landlords in the US don't accept Section 8. And it's such a great way to be a part of the solution for affordable housing by saying, hey, I'll accept Section 8. And now you're truly helping somebody in need, and you're giving them a great place to live. But also, as the win-win there is that as an investor, you're getting guaranteed rent. You're getting, Section 8 going out there every quarter, or however frequently they go out there to make sure the property is in good condition, so they will see things before they break, and so that saves you money, right? So there's so many things, if you really think about having an impact as an investor, that you can do it and you can give back to society, which I think is so powerful.
Yes, and I think a lot of people think of real estate investors and they think they're just greedy, hungry, selfish individuals who are here out for themselves. And for the most part, the people I have on my show are generally people who care, not just about their own wealth and well-being, but they care about other people, and they care about communities, and not just developing their own properties, but developing the communities in which they are investing.
Yes.
Well, talk to us about repositioning equity by understanding the return on equity. And that's a lot of big words for a lot of us. So break that down for us so we can understand that.
Sure. So, one of the concepts that we've sort of learned over the last few years is difference between return on investment and return on equity, right? And so when you first buy a property and you do your numbers, and whatever money you're going to make from that property in cash flow is your return on investment. Now, and at that point, the return on equity, really, when you buy the property, is the same as return on investment. When you hold on to the property for, say, 3 to 5 years, what happens is that your equity goes up, right? Because the property is appreciating over time, which means that your mortgage is still the same because you got a fixed mortgage, and then now your equity went up. Say you bought the property for 150,000, and you had 30,000 of equity in it. Now the property is worth 200, so now you have 80,000 worth of equity in it, and your rents have gone up, but not by the same proportion. as your equity. And so at this point, you have two options as an investor. You can say, you know what, I have a lot of equity in that property and I can just leave it, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with having a lot of equity and still making good cash flow. Or you can say, I'm going to harvest some of that equity so that I can either use that money and buy a new property or whatever you want to do with it, because now you have equity that's just sitting there. You're not making more money on that equity because your rent is still can only go up so much. And so that's where you have to do this analysis to say, okay, either I can refinance and pull my cash out, pull some of the equity out, and use that money now to do another deal, or you can sell that property and do a 1031 exchange and buy another property to use that equity and buy either, we've done this several times where where we have enough equity in a single family home and we'll refinance it, pull the cash out and buy three more properties with that same equity. And now we're cash flowing on all three properties. And now we have, instead of one property, we have two properties that are appreciating and the rents are going up. Yeah. So that's a way to another sort of strategy to scale up faster.
Well, thank you for explaining that. So, Niti, tell us about your company, what it is that you have to offer, and how we can get in touch with you.
Sure. So we love helping corporate and anybody who has a W-2 job or a business in doing what we did, because when we first did this, we wanted to shout from the rooftops that you don't have to do this, you can build wealth. And it is not a get rich quick scheme, but it's a real estate is a get rich slow scheme, right? It takes time to get there, but you have to start, and you have to start investing, and you have to understand how to do it, and you have to grow your skills so that you are investing in the right assets and you're doing it correctly. And so we help with that. And one of the ways we actually had a book out that you mentioned, Alan, which is called Accelerate Your Real Estate, where we talk about the BRRRR strategy and how we were able to use it. It's like a blueprint for what we did. And we also help people. We have a program where we coach people to do that. So, yeah.
As we started out, we were talking about how high earners are complacent and content with their incomes and aren't interested in developing wealth. I suspect one of the issues that they have is actually the fear of investing in alternative assets. They probably have their 401ks and their IRAs, and they're investing through a traditional financial advisor who's probably got all of their money wrapped up in the stocks and in the bond market. And I don't understand this because I've never trusted the bond market and the stock markets. They're constantly fluctuating, and that's just never been my style. But most people feel pretty comfortable with that. How do we help them to overcome the fear of investing in alternative assets?
That's such a great question. And one of the things that I love about real estate, that when we were in the same boat for a long time, we invested in we kept thinking that more money we put in 401k, it's going to magically just create wealth over time. And we did that for 15 years. And I even looked at people who were in corporate who were 10, 15 years ahead of me, that are close to retirement. And they were nowhere close to where they wanted to be financially, and they didn't have a choice but to continue working, even though they were earning so much, and they were doing so well for such a long period of time. And so it's important to understand that nobody's going to come and save you. And this is what lesson that I learned. You need to save yourself, and you need to create your own wealth, because the money market managers and whoever else is just managing your money, they're getting enough commission that they're not truly vested in growing your wealth. And so step one for anyone is to accept that sometimes the ego gets in the way to say, look, I don't understand money. It's okay to say that. Most of us don't. Right. And you have to start somewhere. Its first step is accepting, okay, I need to understand how wealth creation works. And, read books, listen to podcasts such as yours, and really figure out, what is it that you want to do to create wealth. And there's different ways that you can do it, even within real estate. Like, do you want to buy assets? Like, what kind of asset do you want to buy? Do you want to buy single family home? Do you want to buy duplexes? And if you want to grow fast, if you want to do the BRRRR strategy, is that the right fit for you? What is it that you want to do? And that you can expose yourself to different strategies that are out there and pick one. And once you pick one, then you want to stick to that strategy because there's so many distractions that there's this Greek mythology character in Greek mythology who's been condemned to push a rock up a mountain, and when he gets to the top he has to start all the way again from the bottom. And we do that all the time, where we try to learn something, and then just when it's about to get easy we give up and chase another shiny object. And so it's once you figure out a strategy, stick to it for at least a year, learn it really really well, and then at some point you're going to have to take a leap of faith. Because another thing that I've seen that a lot of people do, including we when we first got started, is get caught up in analysis paralysis. We keep just listening to different opinions and all that, and we never really take action. So it's so important at some point to say, okay, I have enough information and I'm going to take action now. Not next year, not the year after, like now, and really making the decision and taking that leap of faith. And once you take that leap of faith, still having a level set of expectations that it may not work out in your first attempt. And that's okay. It's okay to fail. Any business owner, any real estate investor who's done well will tell you that they've had multiple failures. And you learn from those failures every time. You don't give up. And if you don't do those things that I just said, like, success is guaranteed if you do all those things, but it's just, are you committed to doing those things?
Well, let's go into our last three questions and share with us one of your most difficult setbacks. You were just talking about failure, so share with us one of your most difficult setbacks and how you came through that and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, so many. Well, one of the setbacks I can think of is this is like early on in our this, I think this is the third or the fourth property that we had bought. And we had started the rehab, and we had put bought all the materials that we were going to put in that property. And this was the flooring and some of the materials for the cabinets, for the kitchen. Everything was already delivered. It was in the house. And one night, or one morning, our contractor shows up and he's like, everything is gone. It was stolen overnight.
Oh gosh.
And we're like, oh, this is great. Like we had like put in so much money. And at that time, we were just starting out. We didn't have that much. And so, that was a lesson that we learned the hard way, is that when you buy a property, make sure you change the locks the day of. Change the locks, and then put in a camera if you have to, because a lot of people have keys to that property. And so now thankfully, whenever we do our rehab budgets, we always factor in 15% of contingency, because you never know what surprise is going to come up. It's always surprises when you do a large rehab project. And so luckily we were able to use that contingency and then have to come up a little bit with more of our own money, and it worked out fine in the end. But we didn't know that. Yeah. We could have easily been like, this is not a thing, let's just give up now. Yeah. And but it's just you have to keep working through these kind of failures.
Well, how are you putting your success as an investor and entrepreneur to work to create universal well-being?
Oh, great question. So I think one of the things that I'm really passionate about is, if I knew what I know today 10, 15, 20 years back, I could have been way farther ahead than I am now. And there's so many people that if they start now, they can be a lot farther ahead than if they waited another year. And so to me, like, just spreading that message and then telling them that, look, you need to start at some point, and and it's so difficult because money, when you're thinking about money and you're talking about wealth, we have been programmed since we were kids that this is how the world operates, and this is how we always talk things like, money doesn't grow on trees, and somebody who's rich is not necessarily a nice guy, and it makes you bad the more you earn. And there's all these negative emotion that's tied to money. And this has been programmed into our brains for so long. And that's why it's so hard to escape these generational cycles of wealth and money. We tend to do what our parents did. Our money views are similar to how our parents thought about money. And so if I could just make enough people, one, identify that they need to change the way they think about money, change the way they think about wealth. And it takes time and effort to do that. It takes a lot of not just learning skills of, like, how to invest in real estate, but it takes a lot of personal work to really think about, how to grow ourselves as people, right? And there's so many things that go with it. Like, once you start on that journey of wealth creation and then really changing your own situation and getting out of that vicious cycle and truly breaking that generational wealth cycle, there's so many other things that come out of it. As an example, we teach our kids so much. We have like a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old, and we talk about money freely in the house. We talk about wealth. Even though they're young, we take them to our properties and show them how everything works and how money is created. And our goal is to keep teaching them and passing on the knowledge that we have. And I think that is the biggest asset. And we talk about buying assets and owning assets for a long period of time. The best asset that you can have is the journey that you go through when you invest, right? The failures, how you overcome them, how do you improve your skills, how do you overcome fear of investing, all those things. There's so much work that you do along the way that is not necessarily comfortable, but once you get through it, it's just you're a different person and you feel like so much in control of life, which I never had this before. So that, to me, I wish everyone can feel like that.
And our last question. So imagine you've come to the end of your life and you lay on your deathbed. What do you look back on with your greatest sense of joy and fulfillment?
Oh, that's a deep one. I think just this, that one, to me, everything that I've ever done, including starting my real estate journey, investing journey, was my kids. And to me, they're always going to be, the people that I do everything for. But at the end of the day, it's about that. It's about my kids. It's about feeling fulfilled as a person. And one of the ways that I get fulfillment is just helping other people, doing what we do, whether it's on the real estate side, like helping tenants and helping people who are trying to just find a nice place to live, and they can't afford it, or it's people who are starting out and they make decent amount of money, but they're trying to build wealth for their families, and everything in between. To me, that is a huge calling for me to say, look, how do we change this? How do we change the narrative that people have in their own head? How do we change people's trajectories? I think that, to me, is fascinating. So hopefully by that point, I've made somewhat of an impact on people's lives.
Well, Niti, it's been wonderful having you with us today. And enlightened investors, as always, thank you for being with us. It's always my pleasure to be with you. And you know the routine, so like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Enlightened investors, wait, don't go just yet. I just want to remind you about our recently launched webinar that you will not want to miss. If you're at all curious and would like to learn more about how real estate investing can diversify your investment portfolio, alleviate the anxiety associated with Wall Street swings, leverage your 401ks and IRAs to substantially increase the return on your investment, and do all of this with turnkey, hands-off, passive real estate investments, then you'll want to immediately go to stevetalker.com/webinar. In the webinar, we'll also address the common dubious investment schemes that you want to avoid. To access the webinar, go to stevetalker.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you in the webinar.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital. a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steve Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steve Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at stevetalker.com.